Okay, you learn the description of good and evil. Because if they don't, they have no framework.
The first time I stole so that I wouldn't starve. Yes, I lost many assumptions about the simple nature of right and wrong.
They're lost. They think, well, there's malevolence afoot in the world. And I'm a prey animal, a naive prey animal for the malevolence of the world. It's like, well, good luck functioning under that set of assumptions, man. You just do not recover from that. You stay at home in your burrow. That's what you do. Well, you have to. You go down into that. You think, okay, well, malevolence is afoot. I better be the sort of person that can understand it and deal with it. And that's another reason why you have to transform yourself into a monster.
What you really fear is inside yourself. You fear your own power or your anger, the drive to do great, terrible things.
That's the Jungian incorporation of the shadow. It's no bloody joke.
Now, you must journey inwards. To conquer fear, you must become fear. You must bask in the fear of other men.
Because the only thing that a monster won't mess with is another monster. And you might say, well, I don't want to transform myself into a monster. It's like, you don't have a choice. You can either be a pathetic monster, or you can be a monster with some power. Those are your options. There's no non-monster alternative. Weak or strong. And I don't mean strong like dominating tyrant strength. That isn't what I mean at all. I mean strength like functioning at a funeral strength. And that's a kind of monstrosity. And when you're down in chaos, that's what you have to rediscover.
Say goodbye to Father Paul Lanton. He certainly welcomed everyone here, Catholic or not. And he expected those of us who were to look for ways to do good in our community. To think in terms of, what can I give? He gave his life right here in this church, protecting others. Standing up to a man who used fear as a tool to set neighbors against one another. If Father Lanton had an enemy, I would say it was fear. For me personally, he spent many years trying to get me to face my own fears. To understand how they enslaved me, how they divided me from the people that I love. Counseled me to transcend my fears. To be brave enough to forgive. And see the possibilities of being a man without fear.
So because people have commented on every verse in the Bible, like to a degree that's almost unimaginable. So you can look and see all the interpretations and all the translations and get some sense of what the genuine meaning might be. And the line, the meek shall inherit the earth, meek is not a good translation. Or the word has moved in the 300 years or so since it was translated. What it means is this: those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world.
Your compassion is a weakness your enemies will not share.
That's why it's so important. It separates us from them.
And that's another thing I've been telling. Yeah, no kidding. That's a lot different, man.
Difference.
That's a big difference. It's so great. And so, like, one of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
Do you know the expression, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war?
Right, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And so when I tell young men that, they think, well, lots of them are competitive. They're low in agreeableness, you know, because that's part of being competitive temperamentally. It's like, is there something wrong with being competitive? There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with cheating. There's something wrong with being a tyrant. There's something wrong with winning unfairly. All of those things are bad. But you don't want people to win? What's the difference between trying to win and striving? You want to eradicate striving?
Rise to the occasion. And that means you have to be willing to suffer. You cannot embrace difficult circumstances in your life unless you are willing to suffer. We know our tasks not necessarily by what we want. That is, we know the divine-given tasks by what circumstances we very often find ourselves in.
I wanted to save Gotham. I failed.
Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.